joining us. I'm Carolyn Mackenzie. During the holidays, we often look back at the year gone by, and there's no doubt 2020 has been challenging. So we thought it would be a good time to bring you the stories that captivated us or made us feel good. We will also hear from the journalists across the country who brought you these stories. We start in the Maritimes, where the kitchen party is a long-standing tradition that went virtual during the pandemic. What started as a small Facebook group now has more than 200,000 members around the world sharing their performances with an online audience.
If you've never taken part in a good old-fashioned maritime kitchen party, here's your chance.
This story and this Facebook group really came at a time when people needed something to cling to. It was at the beginning of the pandemic. People were on lockdown across the country, away from their families, away from their friends, feeling afraid and disconnected. And what do we often do when words can't describe how we're feeling?
Why is it to whisper when you really need to yell?
We turn to music.
Troubles in tow.
Everything was just negative, and it was just bringing me down, and I was feeling really sorry for myself and my kids and my friends and family and everyone, really.
So, wanting to spread some good, Heather Thompson, the creator of the group, started this Facebook page, Ultimate Online Nova Scotia Kitchen Party. Now, for anyone who's not from the Maritimes and isn't familiar with what a kitchen party is, it's basically when a group of family and friends, we gather in the kitchen and people bring their instruments and play and jam together. It's just like one big happy party. Now, of course, that's something people couldn't do amid the pandemic, and they were missing it. So basically, Heather moved that party online, and within a few days, it pretty much became an open house.
It wasn't just Nova Scotians or people in Atlantic Canada. It was everybody from across Canada kind of pitching in and sharing, something that would brighten people's day. And that was, I think, something that really resonated with people because they needed that at that moment.
If you envision a cartoon back in the day with the snowball that starts this big and then it just goes and goes and goes as it rolls down the hill, that's what this was like.
Amateur performers from across Canada, across the globe actually, started posting their performances. Even some professional musicians started posting.
Hello out there, we're on the air, it's hockey night tonight.
And within just a few weeks, the site, believe it or not, had 300,000 followers. But most importantly, it became a place for people to come together and support one another.
Music has been the one thing that I found that could put a smile on my face.
People who had never sung in public somehow found their voices. Even me.
Got out of town on a boat for the Southern Islands.
To be honest, I still can't believe I actually did that. It took 50 years. Scratch that off the bucket list. Thanks, Nova Scotia Kitchen Party.
Are our winner of our Kitchen for Our Frontline Worker giveaway.
It was a story pitch that I found in my inbox, and we were doing everything COVID related, and it sounded perfect, A millwork company wanted to give back to a frontline worker, and there was this huge contest, so I followed it. You got the phone call last night that you had won a kitchen worth $25,000. First thoughts?
Oh my God. I was thrilled to bits, and I didn't believe it. I thought I was being set up. I really thought I was being set up, and I'm still shaking.
I think it was a wonderful surprise to a devastating year. She was going to retire and thought, no way, I'm going back. These are my people. I need to be there for them. And then to win this, it's just been a lovely journey for Frances and her family.
We were all very nervous about her going into work every day and working with patients that had COVID, and even about her getting it.
I thank the families and the residents for letting me have a little bit of their world for a little bit of the time.
She teared up so many times, and it was because she herself does not feel like she deserves any of this. She's just going out there and just doing her job. She said that so many times, I'm just doing my job. And people like that are the ones that deserve the biggest miracles. And I'm just so happy that we were able to, at least one person, make them feel as special as they deserve.
Come on into your new kitchen. Isn't it gorgeous?
When Susan first came to me about this story, I thought it was going to be such a difficult task to convey such a compelling story, until I started sifting through the footage and realized how well-spoken and how kind-hearted Frances and Jenna were. It was a breeze to edit the story.
You donated your cupboards, your old cupboards, to a family in need.
Because I do believe in paying forward, and I do believe everything good you get in life, you need to give back. You have to give back.
This story has also meant so much to me personally. I think like so many people during COVID, every day can feel a little overwhelming. I'd wake up, I think of juggling my kids and juggling work, and then I would take a moment and think about Frances and all the frontline workers who have sacrificed so much during this pandemic.
Most of all, I'll walk away knowing that I worked with amazing people that looked after our elderly and vulnerable.
What she teaches you is, it's not about me, it's about what can I do for you to make your day better. And if she was sitting here, she would say, it's not about me, this kitchen is for all the frontline workers out there.
Alberta is declaring a state of public emergency in response to COVID-19.
It was surreal watching this all unfold so fast, and for me, it really started to sink in when the province declared that public health state of emergency. And right after the news hour, I saw Linda, and I went up and I talked to her, and I asked her how her show went, and I asked her how she was doing.
We had this conversation early on in the early days of COVID that on a daily basis, the news was very challenging and difficult.
And when I went home that night, that talk just really stuck with me. And when I was on social media, I saw some of the amazing things that Calgarians were doing to step up and to help each other. And it's like a light bulb went off. Like, this is what we need right now. The next morning, I sent off an email to my managers and I CC'd Linda just pitching this good news segment. And of course, Linda replied minutes later saying that she was all in. Managers replied shortly after and they said yes.
You hear the music and you know that, for the next 2.5 minutes, I'm going to get something inspiring. I'm going to get something that's going to lift me up today.
The Calgary Cares segment to me will stay with me forever. That became, I think, for our viewers, a highlight moment in our newscast.
I knew that every day I was going to share an amazing story about people helping each other, and that meant a lot.
The reactions are pure joy, and it's not them, me. I'm the luckiest guy in Calgary right now.
It's been a few nights I've been crying, like a few nights I finally lay my head down and all I can think is, oh my God, how did we get so lucky? There's not a big enough thank you.
You're welcome. We'll ultimately be serving upwards of 450 lunches a day.
It feels amazing to see the audiences we've reached.
It makes me feel nice in my heart, and to know that it really does help.
They bring me so much joy. Why not share a little bit of that with people that are going through some very difficult and uncertain times?
These guys are angels on earth. I'd be lost without this guy, and he'd be lost without these people.
Everyone's going through struggles right now, and just to go out of their way to make someone else happy, it's a good feeling.
So if I can make them happy, I do.
The Calgary community has been really phenomenal in ensuring that people know that they're not alone.
You are important and we love you. Love a friend. I love you back, sweetie.
Things will get better. Things will be better. I have hope.
Dreams for the world.
At first, when I was asked to go there, I didn't believe it at all. For me, it wasn't true. A whale in the St. Lawrence River, right in front of the old port. How can that happen?
It was kind of one of those things you hear about and you don't believe it, so you have to see it with your own eyes. And I said, there's a lot of things in that area of the St. Lawrence River, but a whale is not one of them.
For the first time ever, a young humpback whale has found its way this far up the St. Lawrence River.
It's kind of funny because Global National's assignment desk is in Vancouver, so they're kind of accustomed to whales. So I had to say, no, this is like downtown Montreal. We don't get whales.
The thing is, I didn't believe it. I saw it on Facebook first. I'm like, that's a fake post for sure. They just put a picture, it's like, oh, whale in Montreal.
There was a lot of people in the old port trying to watch the whale too, yeah?
Over there, wow.
Even early in the morning, like the sun's not even out, and there's about like a good 100 people just waiting to see this whale, which is really hard to see at that morning point.
The best thing I have seen since COVID-19 started here.
You would go there and you'd see people on the shoreline watching, hundreds of people sometimes, and almost everybody was smiling. Just standing there waiting for it to come up the next time. This was a phenomenon for like a good 4 or 5 days. People are talking about the whale constantly.
A splash.
Yeah, a moment of bliss for 2020. There was very few, but the whale was one of them, although was short-lived. That was the thing. You kind of knew right away something was wrong. This animal was far, far from where it should have been.
The whale is far from home, some 500 kilometers away from its natural habitat.
Everybody hoped this thing would find its way home, that it would just turn around and go back to the ocean. That's what it needed to do.
What was seen as the biggest breath of fresh air during this pandemic has taken the turn experts feared.
It was sad. It was a sad news.
Well, it's like par for the course for 2020, right? I mean, there was a sad story.
A maritime pilot spotted what seemed to be the floating carcass of the same young whale about 40 kilometers east of Montreal.
Learning that she was hit by a boat, it's even more sad.
There was this big red tape, and my house was behind the red tape, so we had like this exclusive view of the whale happening right in front of our yard. It was the most surreal thing ever. A lot of people were like, oh, the sign of hope is gone, but it was such a beautiful moment in some way. There was this gorgeous sunset and this community kind of gathered. And people applauded when the whale actually was hoisted out of the water.
In the way that the whale was good news during the pandemic, when it turned into bad news, it was kind of one of those things where I didn't need that, so you just sort of didn't want to think about it again.
As the pandemic really started to take hold across Canada, we saw communities step forward in truly remarkable ways, and that certainly held true here in southern Alberta, where a coordinated effort really was amazing to watch in action. So amazing, in fact, it caught the eye of the World Health Organization. Our Eloise Terrien has a look at the wide-ranging effort to help those most impacted.
March 2020 was a month to remember, but the memories aren't all that positive. Businesses and schools were forced to close as we were all suddenly forced to navigate the reality of a worldwide pandemic. In Lethbridge, dozens of community groups took swift action to help those in need by connecting online.
It was an organic development because no one told us what we had to do. And because we have lots of long-time service providers in this community, we just kind of did what had to be done.
Fast forward to the fall. Those local efforts were published in a feature by the World Health Organization. The group's connections focused on things like increasing food delivery programs, upping support for seniors and families, and providing more services for the homeless and disabled populations. New projects even started up, like Volunteer Lethbridge's Keep in Touch program.
We have, I suppose, what we're calling matches, which is volunteers that call seniors mostly now, but it's open to anyone who identifies that way, just to have a friendly phone call 1 or 2 times a week, talk about their day.
The use of Facebook and other online platforms helped the group support people who might otherwise have gone unnoticed.
The initial idea was that it would be a small
Facebook group that a few friends really could help each other out by delivering meals, picking up medication, kind of those daily activities that you can't do when you self-isolate.
Growing to more than 5,000 members in a matter of months, the support circle continues to act as a stream of information to make life easier for Lethbridge residents. And as the pandemic wore on, another crafty local group stepped up to the plate.
Our goal was to make 7,000 projects for COVID, and we've been fortunate enough to excel that.
Helping to make what's been a tough year a little easier.
Well, sometimes the most wonderful stories are the ones that happen completely by chance. They involve regular people in remarkable situations. And that was certainly the case for 96-year-old Wynne Richards, who had an incredible story to tell.
Love is the greatest power, isn't it? Really.
We learned about this love story because of a home renovation of all things. There was a couple doing renos in their basement, getting ready to put their house on the market. As they're tearing down some of the walls in this house, some insulation tumbles to the ground, and with it came a leather case. They looked inside of that case and found hundreds of love letters.
The first letter I grabbed was, and it said 1946.
So of course I got curious, started reading and opening up a few, and you could just smell these letters were like old, antique.
They understood that it was a piece of history that could have easily just been forgotten.
This story involved a great deal of detective work from those homeowners. They looked at the letters, the names, the dates, and the locations, and then turned to social media for help. That eventually led them to the name Jim Richards. He was the son of a Saskatchewan farmer who served overseas during the Second World War. And it was there that he lived out this beautiful love story that involved a woman named Wynne that he met at a dance.
We just looked at each other, and he said, I'm going to marry that girl. And I never told my kids that.
It was incredible. She remembered virtually every detail, from Jim's beautiful blue eyes to the proposal that happened just a few months later, the heartache of him going back to Canada, but also the moment that they were able to reunite. What did you feel in that moment?
Oh, hug, hug. Of course, kiss, kiss, kiss.
Jim and Wynne were together for 54 years. They raised 3 children together in what really seems like this beautiful postcard Norman Rockwell type of love. They thought that these letters had been lost through the course of several different moves, through different houses in different communities. This means a lot to Wynne, in part because Jim died in 2001.
It's like having Jim back with me. Yeah. Back together with my memories, with his letter.
Lots of people are looking for love, and it's not easy to find. So when you do find it, hold on to it. It's definitely inspiring.
Journalism isn't always an easy job. I think we often find ourselves asking people questions about the worst thing that's ever happened to them. So for me to be able to do this story and talk to someone about possibly the best thing that's ever happened to her, that meant everything to me, and it made the whole experience that much more special.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Carolyn Mackenzie. We leave you now with some captivating displays that prove you can never have too much of a good thing.